Is it easy? I hate to say it's easy,
right? This is like what UConn did last year. This is like what UConn did last year. It's just going to be over.
How dare you?
The Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Everybody obviously loves building out their brackets, and it's a sweat. There's going to be bracket busters all over the place. Like half of the field is already probably done with just the one game in the books. But we thought that it would be a little bit fun to do our own bracket, but like an NFL edition. And so what we have done is we took your quarterback rankings and we've made some little seedings, first round, second round, title tilts in the AFC and NFC when it comes to quarterbacks. So let's get our AFC QB bracket up there. First round matchup number one. We've got Patrick Mahomes v. Russell Wilson.
Well, that's the one seed overall, right? So you got to go with Mahomes here. You know the thing about Mahomes that you really appreciate the more you go back and study the Chiefs seasons, particularly after Christmas Day when they got embarrassed by the Raiders on national TV, is his ability to adjust his game, his ability. You know, we talked about playing slow. We were on the podcast today. We were talking about sometimes when Caleb Williams plays, he plays too fast. He tries to do too much, right? And the great players slow down when the game goes fast. They just have an instinct to really slow it down. And Mahomes, does that. When he scrambles and he moves, the game kind of slows down. Whereas Daniel Jones, the game is always hectic and alive. And, oh, my God, what's going to happen? The same thing with Ryan Tannehill. Just wasn't instinctive for Tannehill. So, that's where I give Mahomes a lot of credit. Now, I think Russell going with Arthur Smith's offense and more play action can help. But clearly, Mahomes is going to win this one. The next battle, I think, is an interesting one, right? C.J. Stroud and Tua. Look, put C.J. Stroud on Miami with Tyreek Hill. Who are you picking? Who are you picking, Stormy?
Well, Michael, so it's interesting you say that because according to your rankings, you have Tua above C.J. Stroud. Then again, this is based on last year's performance, but I was going to push back a little bit.
Yeah, based on last year.
So I looked at C.J. Stroud and you lost Tank Dell and still were able to deliver. Still were able to be the offensive rookie of the year and get your team in a position to win your division. Tua lost Tyreek Hill, and everything fell apart. And
went to hell.
Yeah, it all went to hell. It all went to hell. So yeah, I'm on CJ Stroud. I would have this as maybe if we're comparing it to the college basketball tournament, and you have Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson as the 16-1. I would have CJ and Tua as maybe an 8-9 type of a matchup, closely contested.
Exactly.
It could go either way on a given day.
And I would have whatever you picked here is you think the arrow's up with CJ. Remember, all my ratings are based on last year. They're not based on going forward. So they're based on last year. But clearly, that arrow should go up for CJ because if you believe, as I do, the quarterback, the second year within the system improves greatly within the system, I think that's something that you expect from him. And with Tank Dell back, they signed Noah Brown back. Nico Collins can be healthy. They've got Dalton Schultz they re-signed. They're bringing everybody back. They put Mixon. Now everybody realizes they overpaid Mixon, but they have a back there. I don't know how much he's got left in his lower body, but the offense is pretty good there. And I think if they still have the draft to go. They still have the draft to go.
So I still have the arrow up on C.J. Stroud, but we're advancing Tua for now. He's going to get paid. We're going to hear all the wonderful things about the Miami offense under Mike McDaniels again. Let's go to the second portion of the bracket here. Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert in the opening round. Two-time MVP versus high expectations, got paid, but hasn't had anything to show for it yet.
Yeah, well, one guy wins a lot of regular season, struggles in the playoff. One guy has struggled in the regular season, 500 records. So you go, Lamar's the MVP of the league. But again, I think Herbert's going to rise. You got to say Lamar's going to win this one. I think Lamar with Derrick Henry is going to become a better player because I think Henry forces you. If you're going to play Henry, you have to play him where he's deep in the eye. You can't have him offset and expect him to be really the dominating runner. You got to put him back there. You got to get the quarterback under center to clear the room out, and you got to let him build momentum and get to the line of scrimmage, which I think fits perfectly for Lamar. Because Lamar now can run bootlegs. He can kind of move the pocket. I like it. I really do.
I'm with you 100%. I know we didn't see a significant odds change with the Ravens after they added Derrick Henry, but that's because they were already high up on the odds board and favored to win their division already. I think he's going to be a great addition and just open things up that much more for Lamar Jackson. Last one here in the first round, and I love this matchup, so I'm curious to see where you go. Ooh. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. That is an opening round matchup in the AFC. Ooh-wee.
Yeah, it is. But, last year it wasn't the Burrow that we know, starting with the injury, the calf to begin the preseason and then the regular season, and then he gets hurt. So this is easy one, Josh Allen, today, based on last year. Not a hard one at all. Josh was sensational, still turns the ball over way too much. But, look, Josh Allen didn't lose the game to Kansas City. They had a chance, and they just couldn't finish it, and the kicker, Bass, misses the kick, or else we're going to overtime, and we'll see what Josh does. So, I do think, though, that I expect Burrow to have a better year. I think Burrow could easily beat Allen out. I think Burrow could be the guy to watch, and I think the odds favor Cincinnati right now. I think they've had a good offseason, and I think they'll continue to add players to their roster. And they kept their defensive staff in place in Lou Anarumo. And, obviously they could replace Brian Callahan because he didn't call the plays there, right? So Zach Taylor still calls plays. Now, I'm sure they'll miss Brian in some capacity, but you can replace that as opposed to a true play caller. Like if Ben Johnson left Detroit, that would be a harder move.
Yeah, Josh Allen's a conundrum because we know how insanely talented he is with his arm and on the ground. 44 total touchdowns last year to lead the league, but also second in the NFL in interceptions, which is something you got to get reined in if you want to be considered an MVP caliber player. So while Joe Burrow's on his way up, it's Josh Allen that advances based on what we saw last season. Joe Burrow, of course, had the injury. Also a potential upset in the future with CJ Stroud and Tua, but right now it's Tua and Mahomes in the second round, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen in the second round. Who advances to the championship? Who's in our AFC title tilt?
Well, I think it's Mahomes and Allen. I think it is. I think that Allen still, I think Allen carries the team. I love Lamar, but I think Allen still had the better year. Obviously, some things changed in terms of their defense a little bit, but I think these two are the two best players in the AFC. I don't think there's any question. I think Burrow and Jackson could get in this if they have different years.
Okay.
Certainly Burrow can move up further than where he was.
And these are the two favorites right now on the odds board to be the MVP in 2024. Patrick Mahomes, your shortest shot, a 6-1 favorite, followed by Allen at 7-1, Joe Burrow 9-1, Lamar Jackson 10-1. The AFC, as we know, is stacked with talented quarterback play in this spot. Josh Allen yet to earn an MVP. Patrick Mahomes has a couple to his name, a couple Super Bowl MVPs as well. I have to assume Patrick Mahomes is your AFC winner until further notice.
Until further notice, yeah. I mean, look, Josh is so good, but, Josh is, he's going to have to carry it. He's going to have to carry it, and I think he's going to have to, overcome some, as their team's going through this transition, what do they do with Diggs, right? But they gave Kansas City a hard game, and they had the ball for 37 minutes. So I think if Josh can continue to not try to be everything, and let the offense run, and they're committed to doing the things they did last year at the end of the year, which is run the ball more. And we saw how productive they were doing that. I mean, they're the only team that really could run the ball on Kansas City. San Francisco, as good a run team as they were, they couldn't quite do it like the Bills did. They held the ball for 37 minutes. I think Josh Allen can take another step forward. I really do. There's more to his game, and I think he can, if he cuts down on the mistakes, Stormy, that's going to help their team immensely, just eliminating that.
How about the NFC? Because we got a little bit more parity on this side of things. Our first matchup of the first round, Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford.
Wow, this is a hard one now, right? I mean, this is harder than it seems because the way Stafford played at the end of the year was pretty damn impressive. He protected the ball. When he was healthy, he was really good. I'm going to give the nudge here to Dak, but this is like an 8-9 seed here, Stormy. Long term, it's Dak. Maybe in one game it could be Stafford, certainly, because he's got such toughness and he makes the plays. But to me, that's a lot closer than it seems right there. You would think with Dak getting ready to sign a new huge contract, this would be a no-brainer. No, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, especially if we're talking like a March Madness one-and-done scenario. If Matt Stafford's got some good protection going, like it could be on upset watch. But Dak, coming off of this past year, led the NFL in touchdown passes with 36, just 9 interceptions. He finished second in the MVP voting behind Lamar Jackson. So I think he is the natural winner for this one. How about Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins? Jared Goff led the Lions all the way to the NFC title game, and Kirk Cousins, again, he's in the NFC bracket still, despite transferring teams. But in his situation in Minnesota before he had the injury, who would you have advancing between Jared and Kirk Co?
I think this is another 8-9 seed. I had Cousins slightly ahead of Goff, just slightly ahead, and I think ultimately, that one out. When you look at, at some of those that are closer, on one game, right? Cousins could beat him. On one game, Goff could. But I think overall, both of them are so similar, and we still ask, can they win the big game? Can they make the plays? And I think Goff is trying to put some of that at ease. We'll see if Cousins can do that. If he can kind of, all the pressure's on Atlanta. If Atlanta falls short, right? If Atlanta doesn't go to the playoffs, win the South, and win a playoff game, we're going to have the same conversation about Kirk Cousins, and he's going to be 37 years old.
Yeah, despite being...
when are we going to stop having this... When are we going to stop having that conversation, Stormy?
No, I'm with you. I was just going to say, despite being a team that didn't win their division and fired their coaching staff, the expectations for this year since they added that guy are massive. So I'm with you. Okay, let's go to the bottom part of the first round of the bracket. Do you love Jordan Love, or could Jalen Hurts love in this category? Who you got?
I have Love ahead of Hurts. I just think he really developed as the year went on, and I think Hurts took a step back. Was it injury? I don't know. Was it the offensive coordinator? I don't know. But just strictly based on last year, you have to go with Love. The way he threw the ball at the end of the year, I think there's no question about that. Now, doesn't mean Hurts can't take him over. Hurts can't improve his seeding if we move forward. But right now, I think objectively, Hurts is still a good player, but Love did some good things last year.
Prior to the 49ers win over the Packers in the postseason, Jordan Love was on a run of 21 touchdowns and 1 interception. He was awesome the back half of the year. Last one here in the first round, Baker Mayfield and Brock Purdy. This feels like a 14-3 to me. Let's go Purdy.
Yeah. Let's go Purdy. I just think, to me, I had Baker Mayfield as the 12th best quarterback last year in the league, and I think that was probably too high. I put him in what I call level green, which is below the line, but, he still is. He did some good things. One of the things you see when you watch Baker is there's moments of really bad play, and then there's moments of good play, right?
Mayfield, a number 1 overall pick. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the final pick in his draft. Yet we've got Purdy advancing in a landslide.
I wanted to say this, too, as it relates to the tournament. Everybody loves the tournament because we love the David and Goliath story. But for some reason, poor Brock Purdy can't get that David and Goliath love, right? Why? Why is that? Everybody loves the underdog. We watch this tournament because Duquesne's going to beat BYU. We want the underdog, right? We want the underdog. And then when we have a bona fide, incredible underdog like Brock Purdy, we don't want to accept it. I have no idea. It just blows my mind.
So in the next round, then, do you have Purdy beating Jordan Love? These are 2 young quarterbacks you like a lot. Who do you have advancing?
I have Purdy winning. Okay. I'm a Purdy guy. All the way. I think you watch his game tape, he's hard to beat. I like Purdy. And I like Prescott in the next round because, we know Kirk has a hard time getting to any next round, right? And so now I got Purdy and Prescott, right? I got Purdy and Prescott sitting right there at the whole thing. And, when you look at it, I ended up going Prescott over Purdy because of last year's numbers, which were great. But to me, I still am one of those people that I have a hard time wanting to pay Prescott all the money because, again, this whole tournament here, this side – there's really only one guy that has played well in the big games, and that's Stafford, and we eliminated him back long ago.
That's a great point. Yeah, the shots fired at Kirk Cousins, 1-4 in his playoff experience. Dak obviously hasn't won anything in the postseason, cannot get to an NFC Championship game to save his life. Poor Dallas Cowboys fans. But okay, so Dak advances out of the NFC. He is your winner between Brock Purdy and Dak in the NFC Champion. We have Patrick Mahomes as our winner in the AFC. Is it Is it easy? I hate to say it's easy, right?
This is like what UConn did last year. This is like what UConn did last year. It's just going to be over.
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Stormy.
You can't say that to the SDSU alum on the program, but then again, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.